Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, SLMA, for giving me this great opportunity to participate in the conference. I'm Dasanayake from University of Peradeniya. I conducted my research study under the topic of substandard dietary practices in patients undergoing continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis. Let's straight into the introduction. Continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, or CAPD, is a treatment modality for end-stage renal disease patients. So as these patients' kidneys are no longer working the way they are supposed to work, they have to adhere with some dietary recommendations, and also they have to stick with proper dietary practices in long-term basis. So this study was aimed to assess impact of dietary practices in adhering to dietary recommendations. This was a descriptive cross-sectional study conducted on 102 randomly selected CAPD patients at National Hospital Kandy. Let's move on to the results and discussion section. So as this table clearly shows, very few number of participants have adhered with ESPEN recommended targets for all the selected nutrient components. And median dietary protein intake was really low, and it was an important finding which required prompt attention. When considering daily consumption of consumption percentages in this figure, as you can see now, percentages of participants consumed protein-rich food sources such as chicken, other meats, egg white, and fish were also relatively low. So this lower consumption of high-quality protein foods may lead to lower dietary adherence in this population. So normally, CAPD patients are encouraged to have a low potassium and phosphorus diet, but it seems like these patients have overly restrict food sources containing potassium and phosphorus because number of participants within recommended targets for potassium and phosphorus are really low. So these patients' daily food consumption was also unsatisfactory. As you can see in this figure, their daily food consumption was as lower as 14.7%. Although their vegetable consumption was relatively high, most of the participants, that means more than 30% of the participants, used to boil vegetables before they cook, and more than 50% of the participants used low potassium vegetables intentionally or unintentionally as a measure to lower potassium in their diet, because from clinic they are getting the advice to lower potassium content in their diet. So these blind restrictions have led to potassium and fiber non-adherence in this population. Finally, out of selected components, most adhered component was sodium, but it is also as lower as 26.5%. So practices like stern salt restrictions and consumption of salt alternatives maybe contribute to sodium non-adherence in this population. Therefore, results of this study conclude that majority of the participants' dietary consumption and adherence was lower than target recommendations. So we suggest to introduce proper nutritional education models to understand the principles of nutritional requirement for this population other than blindly restrict important food items for their body. Thank you very much.